what guys are available out there now that can right away step into either a starting role or be that bench player that the Kings have been needing for a little bit? Because I feel like the bench, away from the certain moments that they had, like here and there, was pretty weak in Sacramento. The Chimezie Metu was questionable. Trey Lyles had like one or two really good games. Terrence Davis was hot, then he was cold, then he was freezing. I feel like it's pretty clear that the Kings are gonna need some bench help here. I have sporadic. I can never pronounce the name of this website. If you can, please help me out there. And I have all the unrestricted free
Track,
agent.
I think.
Spotrac. There you go. Perfect. That makes way more sense, honestly. I have all the unrestricted free agency names here. I don't know if you have that pulled up at all, but are there any names that stick out to you as someone not only that is available, but someone that you think the Kings really have a good chance at signing?
Yeah, it's tough because the Kings are really just working like with their MLE, which is just about a little over 10 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's hard to find like serious difference makers in that range, and I think because a lot of teams are working with an MLE, like we've seen in years prior, a lot of guys that maybe aren't worth an MLE get paid that amount. And then it puts you in a weird situation with your books. Like maybe Dante DiVincenzo isn't worth an MLE, but there's a chance he gets it in the open market. I think he is, and I like DiVincenzo, but you never really know. One that stands out to me, a guy that I've liked for a while, but I get why the shooting might be concerning, is Kyle Anderson. I really liked his defense. I know that he's not typically like what you think of with like a high paced offense with the slow mo nickname and everything, but I think he like works a little bit like HB, like Barnes in transition, where I do think he still does really excel in that aspect. But to me, like that's the defense, length, and a little bit of playmaking. But he probably doesn't make that much sense because he's a little bit of a suspect shooter, and I don't know that the Kings can take on anybody that has even like a slight question mark when it comes to shooting and spend that type of money in free agency. Um, it's tough, man. There's not that many, like seeing Bobby Portis's name come up, but like I would guess that he ends up staying in Milwaukee. Um,
What are your thoughts on Gary Harris?
yeah, like yeah, he's been an interesting one.
He keeps popping off the page to me, Gary Harris, and then the other one, which I think is going to draw so much attention when we get closer and closer to free agency for many Kings fans, and I think it's a real possibility. The injury concerns scare me, but it's T.J. Warren.
TJ Warren is both of these guys, right? Warren and Harris have probably been mentioned last couple years a handful of times over.
Yeah.
And you can see why. Like Harris is interesting to me because it's like, is Dante going to be back? Because and like, what does this roster look like? Because they have a lot of balancing that they got to figure out in the meantime, right? Like, is Dante DiVincenzo coming back? What role is Davion Mitchell playing next season? Is Justin Holiday going to be here? Is um, who am I missing? Is Terrence Davis going to be active in like play a significant role on this roster? Because if all those guys are back, which I would guess at least one of them, if not two, are not, then there's no like role for a Gary Harris really. But if they end up like making moves where they're kind of balancing in other aspects, then I could see Gary Harris. And TJ Warren, like I would try it. I mean, it's interesting. The other one is Victor Oladipo. That's really interesting to me. He's got a relationship with Sabonis. I want to say twice they were traded together from OKC or from Orlando when Sabonis was traded on draft night. It was with Depot, and then they got traded from OKC to Indiana together. Don't know what their relationship is actually like, but I would assume that spending that much time together, they probably have an all right relationship. And I was really shocked at how well he was moving when we just saw him in the conference finals. Like he looked like he still had some burst to him. Maybe he's out there trying to do a little bit too much sometimes. But I think like for a team that's trying to make something happen sooner rather than later, like he's kind of an upside swing in free agency that's interesting to me. And I think like TJ Warren falls under the same category. It's two guys that like I wouldn't mind trying.
Yeah, I feel you say Victor Oladipo's name and it makes me smile because I feel like so many fans, like I'll be at the gym and I can hear like Kings fans talk about like Kings should go after Oladipo. Like think of a backcourt of Oladipo and Fox together. They would be so fast and they would be crazy unstoppable. And but then on the flip side, you'll hear them talking about Jay Ivey and saying like they don't fit. It's the same conversation with Victor Oladipo,
Right.
guys. It makes no sense to me how you guys don't see it. But with Oladipo, I feel like if he buys into the idea of being a six man like he was in Miami, I feel like he would flourish in Sacramento. Not only do I think fans would love him, he's obviously going to get plenty of opportunity to be a starter. I think there's going to be games where all starters in this season, no matter what team you're on, you get breaks, you get nights off. It's just a thing that happens in the NBA now. But I really do feel like there's a fit in Sacramento here, and then you bring in the idea of Mike Brown, a defensive coach, after he just left the culture that was built in Miami. I think there are strong ideas to go after a guy like Victor Oladipo. That makes a ton of sense. And then with TJ Warren, to fill in that role of a Metu or a Lyles, just that stretch four, I think people forget how good Warren was prior to the injuries. I mean, the dude was averaging like 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal and a half a game. And I could be overdoing those stats a little bit, but I'll never forget the Jimmy Butler back and forth game between him and Warren. Oh my gosh, the shooting back and forth. I mean, look, it was so hot that game that the fire trucks are flying by me right now. They're remembering it. It was that. Just look up that game, look up that matchup. It's a lot of fun to watch. A healthy TJ Warren and a healthy Victor Oladipo added to this team, I think makes tons of sense. The big thing for me, and you kind of touched on it, it's the reshaping of this team. I feel like before the Kings make any signing, Brenden, they're going to make some types of trades first. And I think they have to before they can make any moves because they don't know what they should be signing yet. Dude, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the issue with signing Alex Len and trading for Tristan Thompson, and then it's like, oh crap, we're actually able to keep Rashawn Holmes. So now we have way too many centers going on. So yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think Rashawn Holmes